I had felt like my childhood ended when I was kidnapped. I thought everything had been taken from me. I thought I would never go on a first date. I thought I would never fall in love. I thought I would never get married. I am 36 years old. Like, I was kidnapped over 2 decades ago. But even still today, like, there'll be times when I'm caught off guard. I try to bring myself back to the present. I can remind myself of how far I've come. I have so many more good, happy memories than dark, bad ones. My name's Elizabeth Smart, and probably many of you have met me, heard of me, are familiar with my story. But I also recognize that what happened to me was 20 years ago, and that's been some time. But I was raised in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I grew up having, honestly, a really wonderful childhood. At the same time, I'd say it was probably pretty sheltered, but I never thought that bad things could happen to me, bad things could happen to my family. And I was about to graduate from junior high when my world changed completely. I went to bed. It was a day like any other. And then in the middle of the night, I woke up to a man holding a knife to my neck, telling me to get up and go with him. And in those moments, I mean, I certainly didn't feel like I had an option. Like, nobody had prepared me or said, if someone breaks into your house in the middle of the night, this is what you should do. Nobody told me those kinds of things. I remember him bringing me up into the mountains behind my home. I was probably only like 3.5 miles from my house. There wasn't a trail to get there. I mean, unless you knew where this hiding place was at, you wouldn't have found it. That seemed to be further proof of my captor's invincibility, because as days turned into weeks, I mean, I remember hearing helicopters flying overhead that I can only assume were searching for me. I even remember hearing my name being called one time in the very first days of my abduction. But it wasn't, I mean, I couldn't just yell back. My captors were there. Both of them were there. They had weapons. They would threaten me every day. They were monsters. That's the word that comes to mind when I think of them, because whatever they wanted, they took. And it went on for 9 months. I mean, there were a lot of times when I wanted to give up. There were a lot of times when I just thought, this isn't worth surviving, but somehow I would make it through that day. And I think it ultimately came down to realizing that what these people had done to me was terrible, but that wouldn't change my family's love for me. My family would still want me. My family would still love me. And that was worth surviving for. So anytime I got like close to the edge of giving up, I would end up thinking of my family. And I think, okay, I can keep going. And ultimately that's how I made it through 9 months of captivity. The day that I was rescued, my captors had taken me to Southern California for the winter, and we had ended up hitchhiking back, and we made it all the way to Sandy. All of a sudden, a police car pulled up and another police car pulled up, and I honestly don't even remember how many police cars pulled up, but they jumped out of their cars and they came running over. And in the years since, I've been asked a lot of questions about that day. Why didn't you just say, yes, it's me, thank you, please, yes? There was a lot of fear there. For 9 months, my captors had successfully hidden me from the world. Nobody had ever protected me from them. So in my mind, they had built themselves up to be almost invincible. So even though initially when the police approached us, yes, they were police officers, but I did not know them. And I knew what my captors were capable of. I ended up finally being separated from my captors and questioned alone, which was when I was able to finally admit who I was. At that point, I was handcuffed and put in the back of the car, which I thought, oh my goodness, like I survived 9 months. I can't believe this. I'm going to jail. What did I say wrong? What did I do wrong that like has made them think that I did something or that I should be handcuffed? But I remember I was brought to the Sandy police station where I was ultimately reunited with my dad, and then we were transported up to the main headquarters where I was reunited with my mom and most of my siblings, and then finally I was brought home, and I was so happy. Just like everything that had been taken away from me had all of a sudden been given back. I mean, I just feel so fortunate that I have been able to experience so many parts of life that I didn't think I would be able to do. And I was able to go to college. I got married. I was able to go back to things that I loved, things that I thought that I'd never be able to do again, like playing the harp, horseback riding. I mean, I just finished my 4th marathon, and there's just been so many things that I am so grateful to live and to experience now, because I thought they were taken away forever. I think that we are all a lot stronger than we think we are, but it's not until we really push our own limits that we realize just how strong we are. I imagine there will be some people who think, wow, I could never go through that. I could never do that. That sounds so terrible. It sounds so hard. It was terrible. It was hard. I'm not belittling it. But you don't know what you can do until you don't have a choice, and you have to do it. Crazy as it sounds, I think sometimes it's good to really challenge ourselves just to remind us how strong and tough and capable we really are. So then when other hard things come to us that maybe we don't have control over, we have that faith in our ability, that faith in our own strength that we are going to get through this, and I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going.
I'm sure in your advocacy work, you hear about these things that have happened, and giving people grace for mistakes is really hard in those circumstances. And how do you reconcile that?
I mean, a mistake is once or twice. Beyond that, it's a choice. I think a lot of people misunderstand reconciliation with forgiveness, because you don't have to be friends with someone to forgive them. Personally, I think that forgiveness is for no one but yourself. And it's maybe the greatest form of self-love that you can give yourself, because you are loving yourself enough to let go of the past, to allow yourself to live right now instead of the past, allowing yourself to live for a better future than remain in the past. I don't think forgiveness means that you need to go back to that person and if they've hurt you, say, it's okay. What you did to me is okay, and we can be friends now. No, you will never, ever, ever see me going down to the prison to find Brian Mitchell and say what you did to me was okay. I will never, ever do that. But I also love myself enough that I don't need to stay barricaded in my bedroom, reliving the past. I'm able to keep moving forward. And yeah, there's bad times, there's hard times, ups and downs, but for the most part, I have more ups than I do downs. I am 36 years old. Like, I was kidnapped over 2 decades ago. But even still today, like, there'll be times when I'm like doing anything, I don't know, and like something will trigger a memory. And some of the things that I do when I'm caught off guard, I start with trying to tap into my other senses. So touch, really paying attention to the details around me, just to remind me I am not there anymore. Look at what you've been able to achieve, and not just even like in advocacy, but like you've been able to become a mother. Like, you have 3 happy, healthy children. Like, what a miracle that is. A lot of times I turn to my bed and I just go pull the covers up and just lie in bed for a little while. We have all heard the term security blanket, and I think there's a reason for that, because I think blankets do offer us a level of security. And I think it's okay to be scared. I think there's a place to be scared. I think there's a place to be angry. I'm not just saying you make a decision and your emotions go away. Like, it's okay to have days where you're like, I'm done. Like, it's too hard. I'm taking a day off today, and I'm just going to wrap up in my Minky and watch Friends all day. It's okay to have those days as well. I'm able to give myself perspective. I'm able to pull myself back to the moment because I can remind myself of how far I've come and of good things, happy things that are happening in my life to pull me out of like that maybe dark place that I would otherwise go to. It can be really, really scary to try to live life again. And it can almost just be easier to completely retreat and disengage from the world. I feel like for me, continuing to try to embrace life and live life helps me to find new joys and new passions, and helps me to enrich my own life, so that as I sit in my quiet moments and I look back on my life, I have so many more good, happy memories than dark, bad ones. Everyone has a story. My story is not finished yet, but when I look forward, I see a bigger and brighter future.